I'm Isyander.
And I'm Koda.
And today I'm going to get, I think, the closest I'm ever going to get to doing a Dune episode.
Doing a what episode?
Dune episode. You're gonna see as we go. You're gonna see as we go along, because
Say more.
this episode is the result of a very foreseeable electoral issue.
What do you mean by this?
So I went to count the votes, as I always do, you know.
Yes.
And the patrons still have the very heavy modifier. Don't get me wrong.
I see.
However, YouTube's had a 3-week head start, which is really, really hard to overcome. I am not perfect. Should an Ultramarine fan have seen this coming? Yeah, I definitely should have. But alas, I only have but one heart and clock in at a meager 6 foot, not the full 10 plus required. I cannot compare to the head bean counter. As such, some of my beans have been miscounted, it seems.
Did you at least
We're gonna be.
Did you curve the results?
That's what I'm gonna have to do at this point.
Okay.
But I couldn't curve them on such short notice. Don't worry, I will. Like I said, patrons are a swing state. I will find a way to curve this. But we gotta wait for the numbers to make any kind of sense. For now, though, we get the Age of Strife,
That's emblematic of exactly what seems to have happened.
and one of the most pivotal time periods in all of 40k.
Whoa.
I think it is. If you want to shelf that one section of time where a bunch of skeletons got really mad because they couldn't get sunscreen, this is probably one of the most important sections of all of 40k that we've just not covered at all. It sucks in the Age of Strife. It earns that name so aggressively.
It's very strifish.
Yes.
Strifey.
So you know there's a Dark Age of technology,
Yes.
and then something, and then modern 40k.
This is that.
Yeah. The tagline today is to be a man is to be among untold billions, maybe even trillions.
This is the
suffering.
Dune times.
Yeah.
This
yeah.
is
this
the
is
Dune
so
times.
this sucks.
Yeah.
This, like today being a man sucks. If you can cast Thunderbolt, you're being shipped off to Earth and being sacrificed to the lighthouse to keep it alive.
Or you're just being killed on the spot.
Or you're being killed on the spot, maybe. You know? If you're not doing that, you're being drafted into the guard and you are just going to slow down a tank however you can manage that. Not to mention your best hope. Your best hope is his angels, who, I'm gonna keep it a buck with you, cannot maintain eye contact unless you are a target. You know?
Yeah.
Let's be honest here, you know? There's some Space Marines out there who are looking at your forehead. You know? Like, they're using every trick in the sales
They're looking
book.
above you.
Yeah.
But, like, it looks just about the same.
It's no matter where you wind up, it always sucks. A demon incursion could happen. That's always terrible. But back here, during this time period, it's so much worse.
It's not good.
Well,
okay, does one Goj Van Dyer exist?
No.
Oh, no?
far
No.
later.
Okay.
That's we're gonna cover that age if they win.
Okay, this is me trying to jigsaw puzzle pieces
and
together.
I appreciate that. No. You're totally right. The Emperor of Mankind has been around for a while. He's seen a lot of things. He's seen. It's really hard.
Oh, this is pre-heresy. Why would Goj Van Dyer? Never mind,
exactly.
sorry. Go on.
It's really hard to place what exactly Big E's seen and not seen and been there for and not been there for. And there's so many different theories that swirl around, from 10 shaman in a trench coat to the whole Illuminati thing. We're not sure. What I can say is there's a non-zero chance he watched Jesus get crucified and everything that came after and didn't do a thing. He watched the Cold War happen. World War II, he didn't get involved.
He saw the Cuban Missile Crisis and went,
They'll figure this out. They have to figure this out.
They'll get it.
But it's after this it's after this that he finally goes, okay, well, somebody needs to do something clearly.
He let the Cold War and the Cuban Missile Crisis happen, and he...
Yep. Yeah.
So this is bad.
Oh, it's so bad. To give you a sense of scale, going into the Age of Strife, there are only 3 Chaos Gods.
So this is
it's just a big 3.
bad.
It's just a big 3. And this entire time period sets the stage for modern 40k. It sets the stage for Big E. It sets the stage for us to have, the 4 that we currently have. And it's a very important one that we have yet to cover. So today we're going to be covering the Age of Strife. It's going to be fun for us. It's going to be very fun. It's going to be fun for us. Spectating.
Yeah.
Like in the same way 40k is fun as the player.
You know that one movie that always shows up in like those really, really crappy YouTube shorts where it's just an AI voice summarizing movie?
Yes.
The one where like it's the people and they discover like a civilization in their freezer.
Yeah.
And they keep opening the door and they're watching like the most like horrific stuff happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what we're going to do. We're the
similar.
people staring into our freezer right now.
Yeah, it's very similar. And if you'd like us to continue staring into that freezer, you already know where to find us. It's over on patreon.com/Isyander and Koda. It's how we pay the bills. It's how we get lights. It's how we get more lights, because yes, we are getting more lights. And it is how I will someday make that Lego figure up there real.
Maybe also we could get some heating in here. I can see your breath.
Oh yeah, no, it's I borderline like was debating like the full like we may have a balaclava podcast.
I'm considering like browsing like Facebook Marketplace for like Soviet military surplus, because if it held up against the winter, it'll hold up against this garage.
Be careful what you ask for. You may find like a Nashanka in the mail, is what I'm going to say. But it is
Comrade, I cannot feel my toes.
It is how we keep all of this. Make sure you test it beforehand, especially if it came from like certain areas of the Soviet Union. Anyway, that's my favorite thing. Have you seen that? We're going to take a slight detour here. There's a guy who, I don't know how true this is or not. He found this like old box from his grandfather who was from Ukraine. Moved into the US, and it's a like solid wood box, and inside there's like solid steel, and he's like, the strangest thing happens whenever I open it and take a picture, it gets fuzzy. And there has literally never been an update to that story. Never been an update.
Seen that.
No idea how that panned out.
I remember seeing a video similar to that popping up in like r/, I think it was like interesting or something, whatever it's called. Yeah. And it's like literally the guy going, this cylinder makes a funny,
it has to be fake.
Fuzz on my camera, and all the comments are just,
it has to be fake.
Like, but you know that image, you know, if you know that image of the kid going, at the screen
for our audio.
It's probably popped up on the screen right now.
Yeah.
The comments were basically that. Like,
freaking out.
No words, just that.
Yeah. So that is how we keep all of this going. But it is not just it's a give and take relationship. You get bonus episodes every single week. You get access to Discord, access to community days. Like next week, we're going to be live streaming something. Stay tuned for that, as well as a whole bunch of other perks, including being a swing state, getting curve vote. It's great. It's awesome. There are so many cool things on Patreon, and it is also how we keep all of this going. For those of you already there, thank you very much. The almost custodies amount of you that are there. And for those of you doing it as I speak, thank you as well. Now let us get into... Oh, wait, hold on. 3 options left. Apostasy, Dark Imperium, Age of Rebirth. Those are your 3. Sound off in the comments. I'm not going to lie, you've been sounding off for a while, so I think I know how this is going to play out. But, you know, you can always change things. You could always vote, so make sure you do that. Run it up in the comments.
The patrons might get, like, some new emergency diplomatic powers and declare the first galactic empire and decide, well, we're going to completely reverse the order YouTube decides.
We'll see.
As repercussion for... whatever that was.
Yeah, and also make sure to hit the subscribe button, the whole like rating system, because it really helps us, and it is what keeps the tech priest I have in the freezer at bay. He thaws every time somebody doesn't. It's horrifying. It's scary. I barely got him in there. So thank you for those of you that have done all of that.
The last time he requested additional toasters. We only had the one.
He ate the last one.
Yeah, he ate it.
And so...
then I don't even want to know what he did with it after that.
The Age of Strife. It's so bad... How do I... There's a lot of bad times for humanity. Mm-hmm. This is the worst one. It's so bad.
That's saying something, because Warhammer 40k seems like it's just an anthology of the bad times.
Let me give you a sense of scale for how bad this is. Look at me here. This is so bad, G-Dub will never touch it again. It's awful. It kind of leaves us with the unfortunate reality of there's a lot of dead ends in here, but also critically, the Imperium burn the heretic, purge the mutant. You know their whole routine, their whole shtick, right?
Yeah.
This time period almost makes it seem justified. You see how they got there, because it's like trauma, effectively, that they're just dealing with as a society thousands of years later. Because before this, things are fantastic. There's an SDC for everything. Hive cities are probably great to live in. It's fantastic.
It was the age of technology.
It's great. We
hadn't
have
gotten
we have robots to do anything, and anything a robot can't do, we have a robot to help that robot do that. It's so good.
There are robots
It's
on top of robots
There are
building robots.
humans everywhere. Like, you know, the whole Great Crusade to re-find all of humanity, and wow, we're pretty much everywhere. It's because of this time period. It was great before the Age of Strife. Things were so good, we were on a talking relationship with the Eldar.
Talking.
Yeah.
Not shooting on sight. Talking.
Yeah.
Were these friendly talks, or were these like Cold War negotiations?
Well, they wouldn't call us zoo exhibits to our face, so that's a start.
Cool. They wouldn't freeze at us. That's,
Yeah, they wouldn't freeze us. So that, that was a start. The Tau, I'm not gonna lie, cave paintings at this point.
Yeah.
Not looking good for them. And Chaos is...
Well, just give them a couple thousand years to develop.
Exactly.
Maybe.
And Chaos is not living up to its name. Gonna be honest. They're pretty relaxed. Yeah. They're pretty relaxed at this time period. You don't really see much of them doing anything. I mean, nobody even knew what a Tyranid was at this point. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, because they were probably out in dark space doing whatever.
Who knows what? Orcs
Probably
were
consuming.
Orcs were manageable. Like, we treated orcs the way you treat like a weed. You know, where you show up, pull it, do everything you need to so it doesn't come back. That's it.
Manageable?
Yeah. Humanity was running it back in the day.
Manageable.
The orcs were a mold issue. That's it. It's like mildew. Just show up with some mask, you'll be fine.
Show up with a mask
And a
some bleach,
flamethrower.
and then you're done.
Yeah.
Manageable.
Yeah. Earth had water still.
Huh.
Yeah. Mars was fully terraformed. That was great. It was like actually a
They
viable...
played Surviving Mars and they won. They got to the
it
end
was
game.
it was a viable alternative to living on Earth. It was great. It was fantastic. There were no, like, pretty much anything, really. It was just a time.
It was just a good time.
It was just a great time to be alive. It was this, if you ever have to be born as a human in 40k, pick this time period. Pick right before this.
And I assume that's when the robots attacked?
Among several things.
Okay.
But that is one of them, yes. There's a massive cybernetic revolt. A huge revolt. That guy, who's great for orc extermination,
Whoa.
turns out kind of mad that he's been on orc duty forever with no breaks. So...
I was promised at least 15 minutes every 2 hours. That's what the law says, and then I have a union contract on top of that says I deserve like a at least an hour-long lunch every 4 hours.
Yeah, except instead
Where'd that go?
Instead of, like, ringing people up and all that, you could snuff out a sun. I told you, orcs are manageable. How do you think they're managing them? Did you forget about, like, the omniphage swarms that can just eat anything?
Yes. Yes, I did.
Like, remember, they have guns that you can fire to just lift a continent up and slam it back down. An effective weapon, honestly.
I did forget about that.
We covered all this. Yeah.
I'm remembering that now because I remember equating that to a specific moment in a Halo like terminal video. But I'm remembering that now.
Yeah.
The things were
and so all of
cool.
that suddenly turned against people, and to this day we're still not fully sure why this happened. There wasn't like
disgruntled employee.
Well, yeah, but like there wasn't like a manifesto or anything. Like, think about the scale of what they accomplished. They kind of went without a trace. We only have like the one Man of Iron today, and he's not like filled with hatred for humanity. He's just kind of like, he thinks we're stupid. Which, I mean, you look at our track record, we're kind of stupid.
I mean, okay, I think that could still be filed under disgruntled employee, because I remember being a disgruntled employee and watching myself have to throw away like 15 pounds of donuts at the end of the day because I used to work at a cafe within a grocery store, and I would just take some home.
Yeah, but again, critically,
and I didn't harbor hate. I just went, well, this is screwed up.
The most you could do
nobody's going to notice if these disappear. They're just going to be trash anyway.
Yeah, the most you could do is like feed them back to your boss forcibly, which, that's pretty graphic, but that's about it, right? Imagine if you could like psychically lift the store and slam it back down. Suddenly, the scale of that rubber band snapping back is...
I'll be dead honest. The store was doing that to itself.
right? And so it's a lot of the lore about what was happening here feels like, you know, when in old myths they're talking about like before the Greek gods you had the Titans and they were duking it out and it's just this time of hell, right? A lot of it's described as ants witnessing gods fighting, and it's very fair reaction to it. There weren't just men of iron, but there were men of stone, and there were also men of gold.
They had stone golems?
Well, the whole men of iron, men of gold thing, men of stone, it's a whole thing, and I'm not gonna lie.
Or is that just like a job designation?
Kind of.
No, actually, that makes sense as a job designation because men of iron, those are your military units. The men of stone, those are probably your more mining or hard labor occupations. And your men of gold are more the luxury occupations, more like servers, butlers. That one makes... I'm gathering the naming convention here.
Kind of. It's really hard to know what the delineation is between like men of gold, men of iron, men of stone. And that's like its own episode. What you need to know is they weren't happy. Generally speaking,
disgruntled employees.
They hated it, and maybe they hated us specifically. Maybe humanity was caught in the crossfire of something else. We are not sure, and frankly, Games Workshop will never touch on this again.
My headcanon, they were just being paid minimum wage for orc extermination, and they went on strike. And by strike, they meant strike at the heart of humanity.
You have to understand, none of this has been touched since the 2000s, effectively.
Oh, it's been 20 years.
So, it's not the most fleshed out thing, especially when you look at like modern 40k. What we do know is they were not happy, and they caused a lot of damage. So much damage that most of the STCs are gone, set us back thousands of years.
That it would.
And whole worlds vanished, whole branches of technology were shattered completely. AI had to be removed from the equation. Nobody ever wanted to mess with that ever again.
Well, of course not.
Yeah, I mean, understandably so, right? And
if Midjourney suddenly went from just killing artists' jobs en masse at the moment to just killing everyone en masse, I think people would want it probably destroyed.
I can say that, but no. I was gonna say that, but certain companies are making certain partnerships, so we're not that far off.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we're not that far off. That's just a future we may inhabit.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, God, we're doing Horizon Zero Dawn.
Maybe, possibly.
That's significantly lamer.
Is it lamer?
Yes.
It's been forever since I played. During all this, as if to compound on this massive problem, because that's problem A, fun fact. Problem B is a lot of warp storms. A lot of warp storms.
Do we know if that's a correlation with the sudden robot uprising or just
what we can
coincidence?
The best assumption we have right now is, while the humans are off being stunted on by their own robots, for lack of a better term, the Eldar are busy living it up so hard Slaanesh is coming. And I'd wager the warp storms are related very, very, very strongly to that.
As a kind of a very significant build-up to what would be a frightening and cataclysmic climax.
Yeah, like the sock drawer is all rigid, effectively. Like it's terrible.
Mom found the every bodily fluid drawer.
Yes. And so that's happening in the corner, and that is making things even worse because now you can't travel at all pretty much, and there's a new fourth Chaos God coming. Oh, and technically the warp storms did stop once they came out, but there's now a hole in reality.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's
bad, even if it didn't come with the Chaos God.
Yeah. So during this time period where robots are going hog wild, communication doesn't work, travel doesn't work, and at the end of it all, there's now a new spot for demons to just salsa into reality from. It's really, 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 really bad. And on top of this, most systems were self-sufficient, but not humble about it.
What do you mean by not humble about it?
Remember how I said orcs were a manageable problem. What do you think happened when every single species realized, oh my god, they're weak for once?
They took advantage.
Oh, 100%. And you pair that with how hives today are overpopulated. Back then, imagine they could support it and the collapse that would come when they suddenly couldn't.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, a lot of things decided to jump in on this, and this is why during the Great Crusade you will see very often and this Primarch arrived here and saved them from this one-off Xeno you'll never see again. It's because that one-off Xeno was a problem right there, and they had dealt with it forever, and then suddenly
they're weak and cannot use most of the things they were using to deal with the problem.
Yeah,
and the problem just came back up.
Yep. It is. During this time, a lot of the Imperium...
Wow, it really is a mold infestation. The moment you lose your ability to use bleach, the mold just comes back.
Pretty much. And this is part of why the Imperium is so angry with pretty much everything not human. Even though they don't remember it, I'm going to be honest. But this is the bones of where it started. Because everything that tolerated us suddenly snap-turned to just victimizing us immediately and swiftly. And you can even hear echoes of it today, when the Death Watch talks and they're like, we don't hate the alien because he's different. We hate him because he has nothing but hate in his heart for us.
This is a self-defense thing.
As much as you can shout self-defense while being 7 foot tall and mostly muscle and cannot miss, and taking the fight to their backyard, they do crusade. It's hard to call it defense. Well, I mean, technically speaking...
This is more petty revenge than self-defense.
Technically speaking, humanity had the entire galaxy. So, anywhere in the galaxy standing aground. I mean...
Yep. Sure.
And so that's exactly how things got to the way they are. That's just one part of it, because this is also the great time period when mutations started coming out of the woodwork. So this is when the first abhumans became a thing.
I'd imagine because of the increased chaos weird.
We're not sure, because you look at Ogryn and they just diverted off of humans in a couple thousand years. And you look at Ogryn compared to people, and that's a lot more than a couple thousand years worth of work.
Yeah, fair enough.
I feel like it would take longer than the pyramids to turn into an Ogryn.
I was gonna say, well, you could probably just I think it was some French general or leader specifically. He was trying to do eugenics, but not the kill you kind of eugenics, more the breed superhumans kind of eugenics, where he would only find people who were above 7 foot for his military.
Oh, I remember this, and as a result, you have the tallest army.
Yeah,
yeah,
and then he would specifically try to pair them with taller people to make more tall soldiers.
And I mean, is there any technical advantage to that other than they can lift more and eat more too?
It's psychological.
I mean, yeah, to be fair, I see a 7 foot guy. I'm
oh my god, you have giants.
I'm hosed. Yeah. Especially when the average height is what, 5'5" back then.
But even then, it's not that created a separate species on Earth, separate from humanity. That was just the Talls.
The Talls. That didn't happen. But apparently that's when the Ogryn happened. When in doubt, just blame the warp. Because this is also when...
And that's what I figure, is just the increased, weird warpiness led to more mutations and accelerated success of those mutations.
Well, and also a lot of these planets were terraformed suddenly, we were able to manage this planet's gravity. Now it's back to being 5 times what it used to be. That's just a horrific thing. You will adapt to that very quickly.
Yeah.
Or die. This is also when psykers kind of became a thing.
And that's definitely the warp.
Oh, that's definitely
the warp.
And it leads to all kinds of problems,
of
as
course
you can
it
imagine.
does.
Widespread isolation compounding on all of them, because you now have this situation where aliens are all trying to get you. Steve got twice as tall and 3 times as wide, and Jerry can cast lightning bolt, but he did it wrong once and a demon walked through.
Oh, and he also is babbling and is completely insane now.
Yeah.
So things bad.
Oh, it's horrific. And now you're beginning to see why so much was lost.
Yeah.
So much. It's a miracle, frankly, any technology survived.
It's a miracle humanity is still around, honestly, considering how many things were suddenly out to get them.
Well, again, we were on every planet at some point.
This
It looks
was
like, or not every, but a lot of them.
This is like a Stellaris game where there was probably there was just like one ancient civilization or fallen civilization and like nothing else, and you were able to conquer the galaxy, maybe taking out some minor civs, and then suddenly the end game crisis comes out, and you've had no anything to sharpen your blade on. You're kind of weak for what era you're in, and it's just going to steamroll you.
And then on top of that, the worst beliefs work out for the best. Because like in planets where people saw people levitate coffee cans and go, oh, that's cool, welcome to the army, right? Those people would invariably summon demons every single time, and that's going to be a problem.
Thus destroying your army.
Yeah, versus the worlds where you are being run like a feudal peasant by a medieval lord in a giant mech suit, and they go, witch, kill it. They made it. And so you can see how we got to where
like
we
the modern,
are.
like the Inquisition, because
Yeah.
Well, we don't have any demons being summoned in our backyard.
Yep. You can see how everything started here. This is an AI caused problem, so of course they banned it. Psykers, just because, man, oh man, things just keep happening. Constant Xeno raids. I mean, just constantly. The technology was always failing and or being actively destroyed. And then, like, they knew chaos was a problem, but you gotta understand, they kind of had, like, things are fine. Mm-hmm. Things are fine. And
it was more just like a vibe.
And now suddenly, the Eye of Terror is there. And this is the perfect, like, stage for the Emperor to show up. Because at this point...
everything's going so wrong that someone needs to take the reins here.
Yep.
They can't handle it themselves.
At this point, there's nothing they don't hate, you know? They hate psychers, they hate mutants, they hate aliens, they hate technology. Like, what's left? You can't even trust each other. You know, like it's fully horrific.
It's not good.
Yeah, and so you can kind of see what the hand the Emperor was dealt, and also you can see like the time period he was attempting to go back to. This golden age where humanity was reunified. Very funny thing about the time period that would follow, like the whole like unification wars and then outwards, right? We always talk about techno-barbarians, right? And you imagine the image of the techno-barbarian.
Yes.
That is the thing that everyone envisions when they think of the techno-barbarian. Quite literally, like the barbarian with like a laser eye, effectively.
Yeah.
But something very important to note is, if they survived all of that, one of the most important things about them is the techno part of this. Like, the Emperor branded them barbarians, kind of like the way the Greeks would brand things barbarians. It's like, that's not Greek.
That's more the Romans.
Was
But
it the
yes.
Romans?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a Roman thing. The Greeks were kind of like, do you have something useful? I will trade.
Exactly. So
The Romans were,
you're not Roman.
you're not Roman?
Are you sure it was the Romans? Because
No,
the
it's the
Romans had
Romans.
the whole, like, you can join Rome, and that was like one of the first big things that let them get as big as they
Yeah,
were.
that was the Romans.
But then if they were
The
calling
Greeks-
everyone not them barbarians, how would that system... Somebody will let us know. Somebody will let us know.
It was, if I remember correctly, it was, you had Romans who were like citizens who had served in the military and were like full citizens at that point. You had non-Romans, parentheses, who were just people, and usually they were either like citizens who are just resorting, or like you just did farming or you were a slave. And then you had not Romans, parentheses, pejorative, and that was just like people way far outside of Rome that they were like, you're not real people, we're going to get you.
The earliest attested form of the word is in Mycenaean Greek, which is a term for all non-Greek speaking people, including Egyptians, Persians, and Phoenicians.
That's odd. I thought the Greeks got along
Literally
with the
meant to
Egyptians.
other them.
I thought the Greeks got along with the Egyptians. Okay, cool. Never mind. I guess I've been.
The esoteric stays winning, baby.
Yeah, sure, why not? I thought that was the Romans, but okay.
Again, it's like the big part of Rome is like, you can be a Roman, just, serve.
Yeah, serve.
And that was
Be in the military.
Yeah.
Serve your time.
Which this is an episode on Rome. Could be, but it won't be.
Close enough. Honestly,
It's very aggressively like.
close enough.
Yeah. Did you know they still have the seal on their sewer grates?
Yeah, because some of the sewer grates are from then.
It's so cool.
Like it's the same thing.
So cool.
It's the same thing. How in London there is the city of London, and it's like a walled city within the bounds of London itself that is just like as old as the Roman
That's
times.
the greatest disadvantage America has. We're just not old enough to have that kind of stuff yet.
Well,
Okay, like they have a head start on it. Well,
no, I was going to say we.
No, we do.
We did.
We did. How could I have forgotten?
Yeah.
What a twist.
Though we sent that ancient history on a certain trail.
What a twist. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. The Emperor used the term techno-barbarians in that way, where it's like, these people, you got to remember, the armor they were wearing is part of the bones of what Space Marines were today. Like, it's not people who, because you think of barbarians, you think of like just Thog effectively in like massive power armor. It's
Thog with a laser eye.
Yeah, no, it's much closer to like Mark Zuckerberg in a fur coat. Like that's what techno barbarians really were.
So probably Mark Zuckerberg in about two to 3 years.
Something like that. And that's a very key thing to remember because they made it through this time period. They weren't incompetent boobs. They were very competent.
It was just some guy with an Apple Vision Plus and a sword.
It's like Tim Cook, yeah. It's just like it's Tim Cook if he took up swordsmanship. It's the funniest thing about this whole era is because to have lived through
the revived cyborg corpse of Steve Jobs.
You're not far off from it, but yeah, that is the amount. Those are the
they replaced his heart with an iPhone 16 Pro Max, his eyes with an Apple Vision Plus, and they strapped a Mac to his back.
Oh God, yeah, and so
he fires Apple pencils at you with a gun the size of your torso.
Would hurt, I will say. And so you look at all of that, you see all these filters that they had to survive to even get to the point where you could, wrap it up and call it an age. And
you realize it's not Thog with the laser eye. It's got to be they're at least a little bit intelligent.
A little bit. Now, again, God Emperor of Mankind. That's a rough fight to win. That's a really rough fight to win.
Yeah.
Especially since at this point we've gone from Earth being a veritable haven to live on and Mars being habitable to
Mars went red again.
Oh, we haven't covered what Mars is like. It's awful. Yeah. It's bad. Didn't
they nuke themselves to death?
Yes, they're underground. Kind of. They're underground, constantly being irradiated by either the dragon below or the radiation above, and all along the surface, there's just AI running around looking for things to maul. For a long while, the surface of Mars was unusable because like robot swarms were there.
Cool. Oh, they really played Horizon Zero Dawn.
Oh yeah. Like if there was a place where there's a robot T-Rex, like you got to remember, we covered this in like a sentence when talking.
Do I need to recap Horizon Zero Dawn for you?
No. Okay. We covered this in a sentence when we were talking about the Titans. There are these things called Carnivora that were just running around. We built Titans to deal with that. That was just a problem that Mars solved with Titans. Now think of what that problem could have been to need Titans.
Bad.
Are you seeing the conundrum here?
Kaiju.
Are you kind
of? At the very least, kaiju-sized things.
This brings me to one of my biggest issues with this time period. There is not much art.
Wow, you've just pulled up a single lexiconum page that is 2 sentences long.
Yeah. There's not much art of what these things were. I mean, we know it's like a cast of heretics, but like, how bad were these heretics to, again, need Titans? Because I'm going to be honest.
Running around Mecca?
Or, again, this is another case of using words very deliberately. They're heretics, but you needed a carrier to deal with them? Were they heretics? Or were they like the second runners up to be the Mechanicum and we just never got to see them? Because you unleashed a Titan on them. An equally plausible thing. Unfortunately, we have 2 sentences on them. There is not much on them. This is a time period marked by wars left, right, and center on every single planet. There are water wars. Like like Earth went from having the beautiful blue dot we have today, all the blue
to
squared.
like
There is a singular
Wall-E.
There's a singular ocean that people fight over.
Oh God, we really did revert to like Wall-E.
Yep. Yep.
Cool.
Like it's bad. There's even like a scene of Valdor executing a woman for siphoning water out of it. Yeah. It's kind of funny if you look at it like from that perspective, because like, what are we doing here?
No,
But,
my
also, again,
my brain immediately, there was a dumb thought that went through my brain. Valdor executing this woman with a Nestle branded spear gun.
that's a piece of art you're gonna have to make, is what I'm gonna say. Yeah, it's very rough. I'm still not sure how exactly you boil away an ocean. Like, I don't think you can.
With enough nukes, I feel like anything is possible.
I feel like that's the point of the atmosphere. Like, I feel like you just can't. You have to take it off.
You can't have an atmosphere with like 0% humidity. You can get pretty
someone will let me know.
low.
Someone will let me know if you can boil away an ocean.
I think you can boil away.
During this time period, they certainly did. Earth, Mars, and this was incredibly common. Mars had it worse actually, because their atmosphere completely failed, so they were not shielded from cosmic rays as much, if at all, honestly.
I mean, that'd be more a magnetosphere job, wouldn't it?
The atmosphere does a little bit of a job.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, like when you fly, you raise your odds of cancer.
Oh,
Every time,
cool.
because there's less atmospheric shielding.
I thought like most airplanes had something akin to a Faraday cage.
They do.
Specifically to...
It's still gone up.
I mean,
you are 30,000 feet up there, man.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like, listen. It's gone up in the way like an X-ray. Maybe not an X-ray. It's gone up in a statistically.
Chest X-ray.
It's gone
more
up
like 400 chest X-rays.
It's gone up not enough for everyone to freak out immediately, but like, if you fly constantly, maybe this will be a problem. But like, at the end of the day, God, everything could maybe be a problem.
I mean, you could also like argue that it could be exposure to like jet fuels that does that.
No, I think we're fairly certain it's mostly like, yeah.
Okay.
Like we are
not
in 90.
troposphere.
Which, as somebody who likes flying, is kind of like a bummer.
Atmospheric
But
gradient,
like, again, it's like, if it's going to raise my odds by 0.1, and as a result I get to see more of the world, I think I'll take those odds.
Yeah.
I think I'll take those odds.
I just wish there was a little bit more visibility out those windows on the side, and I wish people would stop trying to shut them. I get you're trying to sleep, but listen, I have wonder, I have mirth, I'm trying to see mountains and the ocean from 30,000 feet.
Once you fly enough times, you enter this Zen state of you get on, you pass out, you wake up in a new place, and it's great.
The only time I've passed out on a flight was the flight home from Japan, where we were in the middle row, and that one was so.
Yeah, it's fine. Again, I go there to sleep and wake up in a new destination. That's all.
Me, plane fan. I like the plane and the flight itself. We're built different.
I'm glad you enjoy it. Mars, for how bad things got, we're still able to accomplish a little bit. Like, they got the planet mostly back, and in between the warp storms, they would like fire off little exploratory missions to check out on what's going on, or raiding parties to get more tech.
Okay, that's
and
cool.
so they did actually manage to get their own culture out of it.
Yeah.
And like, this totally reeks of the Mechanicus, because like, yeah, of course they'd be able to look at warp storms and like,
I can see the bones of the Mechanicus forming here.
Yeah. Now, they're not the full whole hog thing, but again, these are the bones of it. This time period officially ends with Slaaneash's death, which rips open the Eye of Terror. Sorry,
you
death?
mean Slaaneash's birth?
Birth, sorry. Yeah. We haven't reached their death yet.
I mean,
they're working on it.
Cradle to grave, grave to cradle, it's all the same thing.
Well, and technically they were never born. They were always four. They just, it wasn't their time. It's complicated. They always were, and they never will be. The Chaos Gods are strange.
It's a force of nature given personality for a little bit.
Yeah. And so FTL is not possible again consistently, and the Emperor decided, if not now, then when, dude? Like, there's not much of humanity left.
We got to go get out there and grab them while we can.
Oh yeah. Plus now the Eldar are endangered, so that's great. That helps his odds much more. And
I can stop talking to them, and I can just take what was left of them.
And everyone is so much more superstitious than they used to be.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is perfect for a guy who shows up with a sword on fire. It's kind of everything you need.
I know you're telling me not to be religious right now, but Have you looked in the mirror?
Yeah, like he looks the part. He looks the part. And that kind of brings us to the end of the Age of Strife. We're kind of just going to do like a quick little drive-by because there's a lot of stuff in there, you know, like the Men of Iron and all that we could still cover at a later date and definitely deserves its own episode because...
I mean, we've kind of like touched on the Men of Iron a couple times.
Yeah, and like, as you can imagine, like we've covered bits and pieces of the Age of Strife, like when we're talking about knights and how you saw like their hatred of psykers be born in this time period. Every faction we talk about typically has
roots in the, like you can see their core fundamental belief systems forming in this era specifically, and then obviously evolving over time as we move forward to modern 40k where they are now.
But now I gotta turn it over to you. What did you think?
Strife. Very accurate. I do like the techno barbarians not being like the traditional definition of a barbarian. And honestly, it's very like, it's kind of telling that they're labeled that because, you know, you and I think like Thog with a laser eye.
Yeah, exactly.
And I feel like that's on purpose.
That's
like
why
they're labeled
you use the term
barbarian to kind of reduce their intelligence in the people's eyes. Like, they're barbarians. They can't be that smart. They're just Thog with a laser eye.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, this is also maybe the time period that like Tzeentch was shattered. Forgot about that. Maybe, possibly.
Well, Tzeentch seems like the type of guy to shatter and unshatter himself every half second.
There was a time he won, and he was just kind of de facto the strongest.
Oh, yeah, and then he purposefully gave up on the game specifically
the other
to keep
gods
it going.
Shattered him, and like that's
Wait, I thought he gave up.
Welcome to Tzeentch,
knowing
man.
Tzeentch, he probably let this, or maybe he didn't. I don't know. It's all part of the plan.
Yeah, and so like you have a bunch of little goobers running on fetch quests for Tzeentch. And
pink goobers and blue goobers.
Mostly just these two blue goobers.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Petition to name his little demons. What are they called again?
What?
The
pink horrors.
Yeah, the pink horrors and blue horrors to goobers.
I could see it. Their job
they look like goobers.
They're on a fetch quest for Tzeentch in both senses of the way. Like, they're out there for Tzeentch, and they're looking for Tzeentch because he was shattered at some time period, and he became all kinds of things in that moment. Spells, arcane knowledge, and all of that is part of why he's always looking for this stuff, because it's part of him. Critically, we don't know when this happened, but it had to be a time period when there were only 3 Chaos Gods, and a time period where shattering a Chaos God kind of tracks as being a cause for a lot of chaos.
Yeah. So this is like probably right before the birth of Slaanesh.
We don't
know.
Not
right before, but
I'm just saying maybe possibly this fits in pretty well. It's kind of suspicious, but also this is super old lore.
Yeah.
This is super old lore that they don't really ever think about anymore because they just kind of rolled this lore into 40k.
And honestly, with Tzeentch, it makes more sense for it not to be explained very.
This is also a time period where Khorne and Nurgle would have been weaker than Tzeentch. Think about it. What war is happening? There's no blood for the blood god.
Everybody's healthy, so why is it nobody's sick?
There's no blood for the blood god. It's me putting on a hazmat suit, a mask, and a flamethrower, and just done.
Yep.
And just finishing up this whole orc thing. Like there's no spectacle.
Nothing happening.
There's nothing happening there. Like there's not even disease as much because they fixed it all. And so you look at that time period and you're like, those two would be weaker. Those two would be a lot weaker.
Yeah.
And Tzeentch would kind of be up. So maybe, possibly, we don't know. Again, this is super old lore. And
honestly, I like Tzeentch's lore better when it functions more like an electron, where it's less a solid like point and more just a field.
These are things that may have happened. Yeah. Maybe they happened.
This is a field of things that may exist or may not. We don't know. At any given time, something might be true, but also not at the same time.
You have hit the nail on the head. That is the best way I could describe Tzeentch.
Like, that's just Tzeentch.
That's a great way to end the episode. So, as always, thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you next week for a bonus episode if you're on Patreon and a live stream. And make sure
this weekend.
Yes, it is. Not this weekend. Next weekend.
Next weekend.
Yes. And thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for being you.